garden is called Cool Concrete, Warm Wood by Engender Landscapes, and you can see exactly where the word comes from, the cool concrete and warm wood. It's a great combination. Very contemporary garden, very slick, and of course what I love about it, it's got a roof. There's so many gardens that when we work in them we think something's missing. You know, why does my garden just seem to sprawl all over? And by adding something like this Coolaroo sail on top of the garden, it just works, holds it all together and says, this is my space. I'm with Paul Weber from Engender Landscapes, who's created one of the gardens here at Grand Designs. Your garden looks fabulous.
Thank you very much. Very, very proud of it.
Now tell me about it. I mean, where did the inspiration come from and to create something that's so different?
Well, it's a number of factors that inspired the garden. Some practical and some, some of the techniques I've been wanting to try, and obviously with PPC coming on board gave us a great opportunity to do that. The concept is basically blending warm wood with cool concrete. Okay. I think it gives a nice feel to the stand, but I think the concrete also adds practicality to some elements of the decking that we've put in. And then having a look and seeing how I can get those components to work together to give a nice sort of feel to the...
Yeah, because it's kind of like the old meets new almost.
Yeah.
But put together very, very nicely. What were the challenges in putting this garden together right here on site? Besides the 3 days, of course.
Well, the 3 days is probably the biggest one. And the logistics of getting the components in. Show gardens present their own challenges, like, you can't put gum poles down into the floor and drill holes and put things into the floor. So there was quite a bit of engineering that had to go into getting the pillars strong enough to hold up the sail roof on the top. And then, just to try and make things modular so that you could bring them from off-site to on-site and construct it.
The final look of the garden is really a space where people would want to sit and relax and enjoy themselves. Is that an element that you bring through in a lot of your gardens?
For me, landscaping is all about adding value to a property. And I think when you start looking at components like decking and paving and things like that, you have to really be careful about how you spend your money to get the maximum value out of it. And also how you bring in other elements to sort of soften it up and still give it that homely feel. So it doesn't become industrial and cold.
And it almost doesn't look manufactured, It's because we all want our gardens to have a piece of us in it and to have something personal in it. Paul, talk us through some of the plant material and the style of planting that you chose.
So I created 2 different planting zones. I created a dry planting zones that feature some of our indigenous plants quite well. And I created a shaded, softer environment. I think with gardens getting slightly smaller, shade planting becomes a really important part of it. And I think the other elements of where we've done the dry garden is it's a very low maintenance garden. And then what we've done in the garden is we've created places where you can put your pot plants in, which allows you to add colour into it in a cost-effective way. You can change up the garden to different themes whenever you want. You can have a summer garden, winter garden,
and
without being too labour-intensive.
And as the seasons change, so you can just change your palette and your colour and your style, and much like the cushions in your home, I guess.
Exactly, and I think plants do that for a garden.
For sure. There's several ways that concrete has been used in this garden with great effectiveness. But what I really enjoy are these planters, these awesome, very, very architectural concrete planters, of course, with somewhere that you can plant in them. Now, talk us through creating these cement projects. Were they quite challenging?
Yeah, I think, what we try to do is we try to create items that people could do at home.
For sure.
Which we went for a specifically unsterile finish in the pot plants, because an unsterile finish allows you to make 1 or 2 mistakes without it glaring in your face and without going for that perfection look, because perfection is really, really hard to achieve when you're doing it at home.
Yes.
So rather than try to create something perfect, look at a texture that you can get away with when you can have one or two imperfections in it, and it still looks great. And the final finish on the product is actually wood floated, and
because that gives you your bit of your texture then, that you pulled it up. Okay.
And also when your cement is really wet when you work with it, you're invariably going to get cracking. So that's the cracks in the slab actually adds character to it.
Of course it does. Well, it all looks fantastic. I love the shaded structure on top because it makes it feel a bit more intimate. And you know, folks at home must never forget about the roof of their garden.
Exactly.
Because the roof is important. It kind of keeps you where you should be.
Yeah, it makes it cozy, makes it inviting, almost cocoons you into a space and makes you feel very comfortable.
Well, good job to you and your team, and well done.
Thank you very much, Tanya.
Interesting combination of textures which really does highlight and work in this garden. The concrete pavers, the decking, and of course the use of wood and the concrete. What I do also like about it is that it's held together by the 4 pillars, nice and strong, the beautiful architectural aloe inside each one, and it really says, this is my space, this is my garden. And think about that when you're working on your garden. What holds it together and what contains it almost? Is it maybe a roofing structure or a pergola, or is it some pots, or like these structures that have been used? The lovely aloes in it, and then the concrete panels with plants planted inside them. I mean, isn't that cool? So it's kind of like your own hanging gardens of Babylon. I quite like that idea. The planting in this garden has been divided into 2 distinct areas. The one area is the aloe gravel garden, using undulating hills with lots of gravel. And the other area, very soft, lots of textures, and more of a shaded area. So let's look at the gravelled aloe area. Now, the fact about aloes is that you can get aloes today, hybrid aloes available that will flower almost all year round. Gone are the days where aloes only flower in the winter. Now, isn't that fun? So look out at your local garden centre for those hybridized aloes that will flower for you right through the year. On the one side, below the concrete pillars, beautiful textures have been used with philodendron salomes, some of the old-fashioned solenostemons. Do you know what those are? They used to be called coleus. Our grannies used to have them in our gardens. But now what's happened is they've been hybridized to form these vivid, amazing colors, and they grow so easy. Great for the shade, and they work perfectly well as a great combo.